Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we're going to be putting together this heliport. Now keep in mind what you're seeing here is a work in progress version, as I was sick so I didn't have a chance to really take scenes before this and I didn't finish it all the way, but it's looking very nice. We're going to go into how to make static objects, buildings, things like that, and I'm going to finish this creation off. And before I dig into what makes the OMUA Heliport, I'm going to give you a process or breakdown of how I came to this point. Now here we are at the AltaGate creation, and if we take a close look at this part of the building, well, maybe it looks a little familiar, Now because it's part of the larger garage, you may have missed it, but overall you could see the shape is kind of an L or shoe shaped, if you will. It has a central area there, kind of a little fireplace hanging out area here for the truck drivers. Here's where you spawn vehicles, but that's not important for this point of the video. And up here is the main control center for the AltaGate. So this is the building that served as the basic concept to what I ended up for the heliport. How it looks in the workbench, well, just like this. So it's a simple shaped building that has kind of the shape I decide. Now here it's in the other direction or opposite direction, but overall same layout, same type of idea. Now this was the original concept for the AltaGate house, and the idea was that you'd stand on this patio here, balcony, and face the gate, but afterwards I wanted it to face the other direction for that other creation, which left this to kind of be used by me for something else. Now where this creation or heliport was born was from the 318. Now the 318, currently out with the server boosters and YouTube members, is a creation that I really enjoyed building. And as I was building it, I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to have kind of places to service this thing, land, take on loads, things like that. But it's not just that. If you take a look at the OMUA Diving Academy, which is one of my more popular builds, you'll notice a distinct architectural style, kind of branding, very modern, almost brutalistic in style, in architectural style. But what's really neat is that this was my first test at a static object, at a building. And what I used is this workbench, so it's not even in the game as an add-on, it's in the game just purely as a static object. But it gave me the knowledge and kind of the passion for building buildings in Stormworks that allowed me to take my other creations, my other static buildings, to the next level. Now it's not a secret that since people saw the Diving Academy, they immediately wanted an OMUA headquarters, they wanted a non-mission version of the Diving Academy, and while that is still a topic up for debate, I ended up building this with Sheppy 5, and this is the OMUA Dock and Marina. Now the purpose of this add-on is to kind of give us a nice dock area, kind of leisurely almost. It has a little restroom, it has a boat ramp, and not just that, you could rent a bunch of recreational boats from the boathouse here. But you could see that it has that same styling, same kind of architectural themes, and now OMUA had a marina. And last but not least, I started developing kind of a modular connector for a type of cargo that you see here, and it's quite small, but it is quite useful. It even comes with a parachute sometimes. And the idea behind this was to have kind of a series of creations or things that can feed off a whole supply chain worth of things. So I needed a base for the helicopters, as I already have marinas and things. Now again, the cargo itself isn't a great reason per se, but you will notice I have other videos where I started developing other things, such as highly modularized vehicles that pretty much allow you to do all kinds of things, mining and whatnot, including picking up that type of connector. So you could see here the Unicon UTACH attachment, and the idea is that this can pick up those pieces of cargo, load them into helicopters, put them in things, and pretty much use them. What does all that have to do with the heliport, you may ask? Well, it has two containers or two slots for containers, as well as Each one is the Unicon or Universal Connector system that I have developed that also allows R10, which is the long red one, or H4, which is the narrow yellow one. Now, R10, or the red one, is a lot of cars, trucks, things like that, and including even boats, ribs. And then the yellow one is mini subs and helicopters, VTOLs, cargo, things like that. So it really does act as a space where you can deploy a different number of types of vehicles. So that was really the starting point and the desire for this, in addition, of course, to developing a nice new building for OMA and potentially a headquarters or micro headquarters, if you will, that will serve a potential future add-on. And if you know, right now I do have a build challenge out, and that build challenge is developing underwater shipwrecks. Well, this building may become useful if that add-on ever goes into fruition. So I did place these, like I said. Now I put a light with a camera and spotlights. I'm going to add one here soon. And the overall building, the shape is pretty much there. I did punch out a little area here that will be a future storage shed or storage bay. And then I have kind of the interior here with a reception area and stuff like that. Now, while the coloring of the building is a little darker than the diving academy, which actually matches the walls here, I kind of like this more dark type of color. It just looks a little more modern and kind of fits here. And then I have all these different steel elements, which is kind of that light gray. So you can see that. Now I did add 2 parking stalls. I did put my secondary light there. Of course, the green shrub or bush that runs all the way around the building. Back here you could see I have access to some utilities. A fire pump, so you can put out a helicopter fire or whatever if you have an emergency. And we have 2 massive diesel and jet fuel reservoirs. So here, kind of like in an actual gas station, you have to open up the hatch. You can see the level it's at, and you can top it off there. Now these tanks are underground and communicate with these 2 pumps. Now both have just over 10,000 liters, so not too much, but a fair bit considering you can use them to top off your helicopters and get them kind of from place to place. Now in here, the interior has been worked on. This is where you select the type of connector you want to use over there. So that's right here. And like I said, I kept this little kind of lobby area. It makes sense, a little lounge for the pilots to hang out or passengers as they're kind of waiting to be taken. Up here is our little flight control center. Now I did add air traffic control systems using some microcontrollers that I found on the workbench, Steam, and they're not mine, neither of these are mine, but they kind of do suit the purpose. This one is from a ship, but I did modify it and remove some of the information so it kind of serves more like a display. Over here we got a nice little radio controller, and over here we have a 4-camera, I believe, CCTV station. Out here, nice little kind of barbecue area and table for resting. And like I said, we have kind of a nice chill modern environment with all kinds of different features and functionality. Now I do really love this kind of steel shutter, if you will. Like, I really like the look of that on the side of the building. I think it adds a nice little element, and it makes it look a little more polished than the AltaGate version. Scanning through comments on YouTube, someone suggested a medical bay. So what I did is I bumped out the back of the building here. I moved the emergency water tank over here actually, and I put these bollards around it so you can't drive into it accidentally. And I think it kind of serves a little bit nicer there because it just creates almost a little extra element of the heliport on the other side of the map. Plus I have that other light there with camera, so it just gives us something over here that's not a full building, but just a nice little extra build, and it freed up the area here. Now I did not want, the tank to be here. That was really originally my idea, but I definitely think behind the building was kind of out of the way, a little too hidden for something that's supposed to be quite easily accessible for medical emergencies. So while most of the building I'd say is finished, we have a couple extra areas. So primarily the medical bay, so that's an easy add-on, but you could see the building, or the medical bay, kind of serves this portion of the building. I was hoping to get the windows centered, but that will also work, to be honest, especially with the configuration of the beds, because if you walk in here, we could probably put 2 medical beds in these directions like this, kind of like a mini hospital. So in that case, the room isn't even supposed to be symmetrical. Walking into the new medical bay, you could see here, clean, efficient. It has all the things you need, including 2 medical beds, and it's kind of behind the counter here, so it's not really in the public area when you're sitting, so it's kind of over there. With the details done on the roof and a little sign here for the medical bay, that pretty much finishes up, I'd say, the interior of the major building. That practically concludes this build. I added some detail, an air compressor here, a barrel here, and inside the equipment storage, a little workbench with some torches, some hoses, ropes, and cables. Over here, a crate of parachutes, and over here some first aid and other equipment. Now, I will expand this because right behind it is the paintable sign, so I actually cannot put equipment into the wall right there. And not just that, because this is a helicopter kind of base, I do think that this crate that has parachutes inside, well, we could also have a little overflow storage of it back here if we really want, such as this, with the only exception is I'm going to turn this so the crate is closed. And now with everything closed up like that, I can end up just painting it the nice crate colors that I use. So that can sit right there, that's good. And like I said, in here, this bench, we'll just expand it to, let's say, there, or here. Put some more repair gear, as this kind of also serves as an inventory point for your helicopters. I guess we could have one single underwater welder in case you are doing diving missions. So some of the OMUA helicopters, because it is an underwater organization, they have scuba gear, so that will be useful for you then. If you look at my other add-ons, such as the OMUA dock and marina, when you enter edit object, you can only see a bunch of references rather than seeing the actual thing. Why is that? Well, because Sheppy 5 had programmed an awesome code here that actually allows our vehicles to spawn. It allows the actual buildings to spawn and despawn depending on how close you are to them, so they're not constantly running in the background. Because what you will find is if you place add-ons like that, that is now physically part of the map. So no matter where you are, this will exist here if it's set on static. Now, there are some ways to make it kind of go away, but it ends up slowing your game down a lot. So Sheppy 5 designed this code, used it for the dealerships, the buckle dealerships, if you are familiar with them, where we actually have a lot of locations, and all of them have those types of reference nodes. So what I'm going to do is utilize that exact same code that you could see right here, and possibly even program in a way to make vehicles spawn and despawn. Now, this fantastic code is written by Sheppy. Sheppy has full rights to it. No one is allowed to use this without his explicit permission because it is one of those codes that took him a long time to make, and we have to truly give him the credit for it. But what's super cool, it allows the spawning of vehicles. So in the case of the Alta Gate, we have a ton of Alta trucks and all kinds of things, in addition to having 3 locations of it. So that's something to keep in mind. We're going to give this helipad multiple locations and multiple vehicles and helicopters. The way Sheppy taught me to position the building is position it using the normal method like this, but then all you do is look at these values here, and this is what the number is going to be when I then go ahead and position a zone. The one annoying thing is to physically test these paths out and stuff, you actually have to go and start a new game each time. So I'm going to do it once and see where that one on the creative base turned out. New game started and success. There is the base. Now the one thing that's not successful is the orientation. I wanted to have this back grass up against the ocean, but this kind of works too, in a sense that your helicopter would be coming in and landing, but I just kind of think this is too out in the middle of the open. So that's the first thing I wanted to test. The second thing is inside the building. Can we see the list? Perfect. Can we spawn, let's say, the truck? Now keep in mind, this is the Alta version, and it didn't find it because I actually placed 2. One is here for the vehicles, cars, stuff, and one spawn point is here for the helicopters. So because of that, my previously named piece underneath the creation, you'll find right here, is called spawn H, despawn H for helicopter, and over here, spawn C, despawn C for car. So those are the 2 spawn points and despawn points. So I didn't name it right in the code. Fast forward a bunch of programming, a bunch of adjustments and things, and finally it is working to some extent, as in if I go to sell or return the helicopter, it gets returned. I can list it. Now I do have to fix how everything here appears, but I did do a lot of work, including adding a bunch of different types of vehicles to this add-on. So you're going to end up with a lot of good things. It took a while just even to develop some of these vehicles that are never seen before. You don't have this out released, you don't have this released, pretty much none of these are released actually. Only the forklift is released and none of these. And then I have all of these little Unicon containers that I've been working on, and then I have to start placing the helicopters, starting from smallest all the way to largest here. So then all of these are going to be spawnable. The coding itself is quite tricky, and I did take Sheppy's source code, changed it up a little bit, made it work, but end of the day it will have to be checked by him, so hopefully he's willing to collaborate. But regardless, just looking at this and seeing how things are slowly coming, I'm quite happy. Now, I'm not sure that I showcased this, but I actually added a little standby room here. So you have a 2-bedroom kind of suite with a TV and a plant for when you're not on shift. If you have someone here, I'd imagine this would be a 24-hour operation, just so you can have, you know, the operation of the OMUA team getting support by the people working here. So that was added, but overall, neat little build. Very happy with how it turned out. And there's going to be just a couple more changes and then we'll be live. Neat little touch, made the air compressor actually functional, so that's cool. And then in the actual add-on, like I said, one of the things was this was definitely not programmed right, so I am going to program the rest of these correctly. But once that's done, like I said, it's really going to just be for final touches, cleanup, and hopefully a final bit of testing before it goes live, as well as, of course, it will go with the server boosters and YouTube members first. But I'm quite excited to see the reception on this creation. It's a small build, but it's gonna be pretty mighty, just because you're gonna end up with a lot of functionality in several map points actually, so you will get to use this creation at multiple locations. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more content, stay tuned for more creations. I spent a lot of time today actually updating a lot of my creations, including making newer versions of things like this that are going to be out with this heliport. I'd also like to thank my first and newest YouTube member, Alfie. Thank you for joining the team. You're going to be enjoying a lot of extra content there, including pre-released videos and a lot of pre-released creations, so I really do appreciate that. And I do want to thank you all for watching, for supporting, all that good stuff. Until next time, happy Stormworksing, everyone.